Well, people, I just want to dance. Whenever I listen to that song, I just want to dance. Hey, everybody, welcome to We Do Virtual Events Live, the talk show that features conversations with, pathfinders who have, used the virtual events and their event experience. So if you're here for the first time, I just want to welcome you, and you can go to We Do Virtual Events Live to get information. But you know what, folks, today I'm really excited because I kind of am digging back a little bit to my roots being a Malaysian, because in my home country, Malaysia, tourism and hospitality, I would say that would be the top three industries in Malaysia that is income earning. So we make those industries make money for Malaysia. And because of the pandemic, last almost 2 years ago, the country is going through a rough time right now. And also due to the pandemic, challenges in the tourism and hospitality industries. And if you folks are watching this today, I have 5 guests right here, 5 guests who will be featured on the panel of the tourism panel, who will kind of share the experience with you about, how they adapted to the pandemic economy, using virtual events. So I'm going to give you a sneak peek, and I'll bring them back in a few minutes. Well, all right, everybody. I am so excited. Yes, I am excited because this is one of the topics that I think is very important. And, when I started We Do Virtual Events Live, I said, I have a huge global community and network. Why don't I tap into it and then feature pathfinders, and bring them on panels and have a conversation? Are you ready to meet the 5 folks here who will be on this panel? And we will be talking about how virtual events help tourism and hospitality industries adapt to a pandemic economy. Now, folks, if you're here in our live stage, and I see Jerome Mutaura, Amy Dumas, and I don't know who else is here, but if you're here, still say hello. And if you're watching this in our Facebook communities online, say hello so we can actually put up your comments on screen, your questions on screen. But you know what? I'm going to shut up and let these 5 folks share their experience today, because you know what? They're actually coming in from all around the world. And when I say all around the world, kind of a major continent on this earth. So I'm going to bring them on right now. 1, 2, boom. Hey, everybody. How is everybody doing today? All right, now I can tell them y'all can unmute.
Doing great.
You know what? I want to get this conversation started because I was so moved, by this topic being, my home country, Malaysia, tourism and hospitality, top 2 industry that makes money for Malaysia. So let's get this conversation going. But before that, let's go around the room, 30 seconds intro. I know they saw your, your bio, but I would still love for you to do a quick 30 seconds intro. Nazim, get us started.
There you go. I'm American living in Milan, Italy. I married an Italian 27 years ago, and she dragged me from Miami all the way over here. I have a digital agency, and I also do some work for for a company that designs cruise ships. But apart from that, me and my wife have a blog called casachiesi.com, and we're Italian travel and life street bloggers.
Boom! Here we go. Thanks for that. Boom! By now, you all should know I say that a lot. Melissa, welcome to We Do Virtual Events Live.
Hi, everybody. Melissa Pabian, certified meeting planner. Have worked in hospitality and tourism for over 15 years now. Currently on contract with Morgan Stanley, helping with all of their employee and guest services and virtual events.
Boom. You know what, Melissa? I see your friend Amy in the live stage with us, and she goes, hello from Palm Coast, Florida. Melissa Woodward. You have fans. All right, Sharon Miza, welcome. And he is our future guy because he is in Malaysia. He's about to go to sleep.
Half asleep, yeah. Hi, hello,
Half asleep.
hello, everyone. My name is Sharomiza Zakaria. You can call me Sharo. I'm from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I work with Malaysia External Trade Development Corporation, or in short, MATRADE, the National Trade Promotion Agency for Malaysia. So my main role in MATRADE is to develop Malaysian exporters to be global champion, as well as undertaking trade promotion and activities. Even though my background might not be relevant to the topic we are discussing today, but I will share my thoughts and our experiences in organizing as well as managing virtual trade events. So I was based in New York for the last 6 years, and that's where I met Zeb.
Yep.
Thank you.
Even though we're fellow Malaysians, but we had to come to New York to meet each other. Well, hey, that's the way it goes, right? Boom. Julie Snyder's in the house.
Hi there, everyone. Yeah, I'm Julie. I didn't even know I was in the hospitality trade. I was actually in the artist sphere, basically organizing major workshops for painters in various chateaus in France, Italy, and Scotland. But it wasn't until the pandemic hit that suddenly I realized that I was in this travel and hospitality industry. Absolutely, 100%. So my viewpoint comes from that of a very high aesthetic. I love culture, I love life, I love working with artists, and we've had to find a way to navigate the lack of in-person retreats. So virtual has become part of my world too.
Yep. And you've done some really great stuff, even though, you're kind of like venturing out, figuring out the virtual event stuff, but you've done great so far. So I would love to hear you share in a bit. Rivers from Canada.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rivers. I'm based out of Montreal, Canada. I am a chef talent agent, and we have pivoted from being in face-to-face talent of chefs bringing culinary experiences to bringing the culinary experiences to virtual events that are now operating around North America and into the UK. So we've pivoted. We're doing it in a great way and having some amazing experiences with incredible chefs from around the planet.
I love that. And I love that everyone has their creativity. So in case you all did not hear this just now or earlier, you missed it, in case you're watching live with us and in the live chat, wherever in our social platform or in our live stages, which I see that's about somebody just said, I think Amy just said, happy belated Canada Day. Hi, Ivy. Welcome to the broadcast. Mutara's back. John Chan is in the house. Hi, John. Good to see you. All right, folks, if you're actually watching on our live streams on the social platforms, especially on YouTube or on Facebook, go ahead and drop us a comment so we can also show your comments on screen. All right, folks, today we are talking about, how virtual events help tourism and hospitality industries adapt to a pandemic economy. I do have one question that I want to start off with, and we'll go around the room. This is how we do it here at We Do Virtual Events Live. So we'll go around the room, each, presenter will kind of share their take on this question. So let's get started. Everybody ready? Okay,
Ready.
Let's go. Question number 1. Based on your experience, how have virtual events helped tourism and hospitality industries adapt to the pandemic economy? Who wants to get us started? Okay, Nazim. I love when I have to pull names out of the hat. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I know. Here we go. Honored to be here and honored to be picked to start with the first question. No, we were attending some events, which was Traverse, which is a UK organization that they did a big trip in the Trento area. And that was right before the pandemic. So that was a fantastic event. We got to see the whole area. Travel bloggers from around the world met. And after that event happened, when we went into the situation of the pandemic, they did a virtual event, very much reduced in size. And what happened in that event, it turned out to be very much a moaning and complaining event of mostly travel bloggers that were just complaining about the cut down in their resources and their incomes, not being able to travel. What are we going to do? So it was very good in the sense of discussing the alternatives and what sort of pivots. There was another event in Catania that we had reservations to go to, which is from TBEX, which is probably one of the biggest travel organizations that do events around the world. And they totally canceled that event, and it's now, they're planning on redoing it next year, but they have not embraced at all virtual events. So I see a lot of mixed bags between people who have kind of adapted into that world and some organizations that just like, okay, well, you know, we're going to wait and see situation, what happens with the pandemic.
I love that you shared that, and I'm just gonna kind of, because I want to say something about that. So for you all travel bloggers out there, learn how to live stream. Hello, just like Nazim does, right, Nazim?
Yeah,
And this
yeah.
is what we talked about. One of the conversations, and I know probably a few of you can share this. One of the big things, I come from the live streaming, live broadcasting production space. So one of the things we started, and I met somebody in a Periscope convention like a few years ago. I think you know Euro Maestro, right, Nazim?
Oh, yeah.
So
I know
what
him
he
very well.
does,
Yeah.
we don't know how he looks like. So what he does is powers up his streaming tool and just start walking the streets of France. Is he in France? He's in France. We don't know how he
yeah.
looks like, but he does this talk. He just goes out. He tells people about what he's looking at. So travel bloggers, maybe you can try to use that, you know, and I think a great way to pre-record some stuff and do virtual events, which we can talk a little bit more later. But these are the tools that we have access to. So I think it'll be great to kind of hear what others have to share. Now, who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Yeah, I knew you'd go next.
Yeah, so what I found is that, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for over 25 years. So those people that are true entrepreneurs in the hospitality and tourism space actually are looking at this as an incredible opportunity to diversify in a direction that they would never have had before, because the world is embracing virtual as a way to communicate in a way that they never would before. So I find, the people that I'm hanging out with are very excited about this whole change because of the newness, and because it's the newness, everybody's starting from the same starting line, whether they've been in business for 25 years or 25 minutes. And that equals opportunity for everyone. And virtual events have really been the circle behind making that all happen. So that's been what I've seen happening.
I love it. Could you also share a little bit? I'm going to put this up on screen just because you sent me an image. Maybe you can tell our audiences just a tad about what you started during the pandemic, because I think this is awesome, because I think food has a lot to do with hospitality and tourism. And
Yep.
Tell us about Chef Toriel.
Yeah, so when you do on live events, what happens is that the food and beverage and venues are the first two things you usually think about. And so that's typically where people went. But when it's virtual, it's food and beverage is one of the last things you think about. But it's still just as necessary, because people have to maintain a connection to the event. And if you're losing them because they do not have the proper food connection to what it is they're doing, or they're not engaging, then that's what's happened. So we created these chef-based culinary experiences that bring the physical world to the digital world. So we bring all the senses that are in the physical world with the digital world, including interaction. We are not couch cooks. We are all like, you're in the game with us, you're making them with us. And it's really created an experience where our litmus test is, whoa, that was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. And we do that with a team from around the world.
I love that you mentioned that, because you talk about the connection, and the connection is what we all will be talking about, because it may be virtual, but what we all need to focus on, I feel, in the tourism and hospitality industries are really building that connection. I'm going to kind of put Julie on the spot, because I think she also has experience in this, especially in the recent experience with virtual events. Oh, you're muted.
There we go. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, going on what Rivers said, being an entrepreneur. So some of us didn't really know we were entrepreneurs, but all artists, they're basically creating their futures. And so I guess we are entrepreneurs, and what I had to do was, figure out how virtual could serve our community. My biggest problem was I was ridiculously optimistic, thinking, well, it'll be over in a little while. So just kept moving events up the calendar, just postponing until you sort of run out of calendar. And then you're like, I've got to do something, right? I have a crew, I have staff. And what's really amazing is we're still here, which is incredible. So it was how to bring that interaction was really important. But what virtual's done is actually, for the hospitality and travel industry, is actually given it our destinations a kind of exposure that otherwise you can't get unless you actually go there in person. So our art retreats are very premier. They're not super inexpensive. So it was like, how do we bring all that kind of culture and all those, interaction, the connection to virtual? So we had to really work it out, how we can make it highly interactive, highly productive, and things that people would really enjoy doing. And it was a massive challenge.
I love that you mentioned that, because even though some of you folks out there are thinking, oh, it's such a challenge. Of course it's such a challenge, because it's never done, it's never been done before. We all are figuring out our new normal. But I want to show you some pictures that Julie has shared with us. Julie, can I put them up and then you can share with us what we're looking at?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is one group. We always do a group photo at the end. So this is one group with a very, very, very talented instructor. Not all our groups are instructors. Sometimes they're just art retreats where people go just to spend time with other artists painting side by side, and enjoying that camaraderie and the sort of synergy that happens when you put a bunch of artists in a castle somewhere and you add paint and wine and da-da, is what you get. So that's what's going on. But even here, we're having fun. So this is a couple of our guests, actually no instructor on this one. This is in the little village of Coucaron in the Luberon. And here's me, and there's Shirley, who is my co-presenter and my co-host. I call myself the captain. She's my first mate. So there you go. We're in France.
Love it, love it, love it. So I would really like to kind of hear who else. Maybe Melissa, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the virtual event piece is really what has kept all of us connected throughout this entire thing. My primary job is to keep all of our employees engaged, and all of them are working from home right now. So we've done things like we've put on pottery classes, we've put on cooking classes, we've put on cocktail classes, and we get audiences from all over the world. And just to know that everybody's kind of feeling the same way, everybody's kind of going through the same thing, and having an opportunity to connect with people that you may have never had the opportunity to connect with before because they're 6,000 miles away from you, I think has been one great thing that has come out of this.
Let me ask you this: being in the hotel industry, how what has been your experience with virtual events? Because I know this is what you do where you work. Share a little bit about with us what has been successful for over the past almost 2 years.
I think the thing that has been most successful is really the engagement. I think that there was a hesitation of there being engagement on a virtual aspect instead of having people in person. But I think people are so craving that interaction with each other that it has a tendency to have them be even more engaged on the virtual side, and giving people that are maybe the introverts a little bit more level of comfortableness talking to people through a screen rather than in a room of hundreds of people.
I agree. And it's all about discovering a new normal for everybody. But before we continue this conversation, I just want to do a quick hello to a few others who have joined us in our live stage. Brigetti is in the house from Cape Town, South Africa. Ivy is from the Philippines. Wow, we're actually having a great reach on this show today. That explains why we do virtual events, not only streaming, but other kinds of virtual events that are integrated with streaming so that we can have a conversation face-to-face like this and in real time. Cheryl, I know, coming from a trade perspective, what has been your experience doing a lot of virtual events? And I know being in a trade space, you do work a lot with people in the tourism and hospitality industries. What have you seen?
Okay, I think first and foremost, I think I have three, I can say three key points that I can share here. I mean, based on the experience organizing and managing virtual events, especially in the trade promotion, because definitely similar like tourism as hospitality, we are also badly affected after the pandemic happened sometime last year in starting in February. So in my opinion, number one, the virtual events actually is important to keep everyone connected, because this is, I mean, looking at a business perspective, everybody needs to be connected. I mean, previously it has been done physically. You can visit. I can visit you in America, and Americans can come to Malaysia to meet with a Malaysian business. But now anybody, everyone cannot travel across the borders easily. So that's the problem. And virtual events are the main tool to keep everybody connected, continue the conversation, and continue to talk about business. That's number one. Number two is to exchange ideas, share new information, explore perspective and current market trends. Because I think after the during the pandemic, a lot of things have changed. I think one of the most important is about digitalization. I think all the panelists will agree with me that digitalization is the key thing that shift the consumer behavior. For example, now I bet every one of you bought online more during the pandemic rather than during the before pandemic, isn't it? So that's the
Yeah,
most important.
I'm
So
sure.
yeah, looking at that perspective, I mean, in the business perspective, you can see that as a trend that more businesses now going online, exploring e-commerce, selling it through the e-marketplaces. I mean, in US, I bought a lot from Amazon. I mean, I've been the number one
Yeah.
fan in Amazon. So yeah, those kind of things. I think definitely Amazon is
Guilty.
increasing business. Yeah, I mean, no, don't be guilty about it. All right, and number two
We
is
all do it, right?
yeah, and number three, we need to continue to promotion activities. I think yeah, and I can see our friend the chef and also the art. They are talking about promoting their arts, their services, even their hobbies. So these are the tools that we need to continue to use it to do the promotion. Even though I mean we can understand like you cannot feel, touch, and smell stuff, but again, this is the best thing that we can do. I mean, to even for hospitality or tourism, you can see the nice picture, the nice video of the country, and try to imagine it, and maybe
Yep.
have a plan or create a plan that okay, after this pandemic is over, I want to travel to that particular country. Like me, after the pandemic ends, I want to go back to America. So those kind of thing that the virtual event can give the impact to the people. Yeah.
Wow, I knew I could count on Sharomiza for dropping on point. So hey, virtual events for tourism and hospitality industries. Number one, make that connection. It's all about making the connection. Number two, exchange ideas. Number three, contribute to promotional activities. I love that how he lays it all out. But let me just quickly read something. So, folks, please excuse my looking here and there because I have three screens in front of me. You just don't see it. But I'm going to read something from the live stage here. Charlie Chin. I'm sorry. Brigetti says that I love that live streaming joins us from around the world wherever the internet is available. And Mike says, I wish I could take notes. This is so much good stuff. And thank you all for joining us here. And today we're talking about how virtual events helped tourism and hospitality industries adapt to a pandemic economy. All right. I think we've gone around to kind of share this, but I also want to do a quick 10 seconds intermission just so that we'll come back with a brand new question. We'll see you in a few seconds. All right, welcome back, folks. We are on a panel that focuses on tourism and hospitality, and today's conversation revolves about how virtual events help tourism and hospitality industries adapt to a pandemic economy. Now, I want to kind of share a little bit about what Sharomiza just shared there just now. One of the most important things, right, is connection. whatever we do, especially in the virtual events world, is just keeping the connection. And one of the things before the show, I know Nazim and I had this like short, brief conversation because you talked about how, virtual events for many bloggers, they're still like, I'm not sure how to do this. Like, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. But then think about the connection that we're making while waiting for things to open up, right? So basically, virtual events will be our vehicle. The cheftorial classes will be the vehicle before we can really, really, taste the food, smell or something. Rivers, you actually, in your cheftorial classes, do you actually give people an ingredient list to go out and cook together? Is that what you guys do?
Yeah, the first thing I want to say to your bloggers, by the way, I am not a chef. I'm the furthest thing from it. That's why I have chefs to help me do what it is that I do. So
he's just being a great entrepreneur.
Yeah, so what we do is a little bit of both. So it's really experiential. A lot of our guests like to go to the supermarket, get out of the house, go. So we provide them with a pre-experience guide with directions from the chef who's going to do the event. They've got all the ingredients. They're really simple ingredients. We don't go extreme, but they're enough to go through that experience. If our guests want them boxed up ahead of time, we brand them and we'll send the ingredients. But so that's how we do that.
And I mentioned earlier also behind the scenes conversation. Sometimes behind the scene conversations are just the greatest. I have a friend who actually is a live streamer and used to have a restaurant in Australia. Fellow Malaysian whom I met through live streaming online. And I said, "Oh, you're a fellow Malaysian who lives in Australia." She goes, "Yeah." So Jackie Tang, if any one of you have seen her show, she launched this show slightly, I think, like a month or two when we're during pandemic. So it's called Masters of Malaysian Cuisine. So her inspiration was, I'm having goosies because I'm thinking about all the creative virtual events you folks out there can really, come up with. She started this show just with the thought of connecting international Malaysian chefs around the world to kind of show a little bit, hey, then she got, the Malaysian Tourism Promotion Board really got inspired by this, by this production, and they're now backing up the project. The idea is there, be creative, because they're engaging and connecting people. Nazim, you mentioned about bloggers not being perceptive or open to the idea of virtual events because they want to be there. How do you think, if you were to talk to a blogger right now, like what would you say to them?
Well, I think right now, you and me have been in this space for quite a long time. And for us being on video and showing stuff and going all over the place is normal. I think that in the pandemic, towards now that we passed that 1 year mark, they've jumped on the bandwagon and they're doing variations on the theme, looking at different platforms, looking at even social platforms that are starting to really, if you look at the latest news on Instagram has decided not to be anymore a photo platform. They're going to jump and compete with TikTok. They're going to compete with the live streaming. So I think everybody's going to have to sooner or later pivot and not necessarily just marry it, but combine all these forces to be able to show what you specialize in. Another example is my wife. My wife's a makeup artist here in Milan. She basically set up something during the pandemic called, how to look great on camera. And now she's getting companies that are hiring her just to teach them, simple makeup tricks to look, how to look great on camera. So all these things, as Rivers was saying, you're right. It's a total great opportunity. We've got this tool called the internet. We can connect from all over the world, and it's a win-win.
I love that, it's all about being creative, right? Creative ideas and all that. Let me read a few, comments right here. Mutaura, who is actually in our live stage, saying, virtual event is a good start to build awareness and interest to the audience. Absolutely. And this is why we wanted to have this conversation, right? It's just, exposing your creativity, your, what you do, before, remember, Nazim, before we started streaming, in the earlier years when we started streaming, we had actually the gentleman we mentioned about Euro Maestro. So Euro, if you're actually watching this, we are pitching you. So what happened was, there were a few streamers who were still figuring out the streaming platforms. And that was this tool called Periscope, no longer around. But what happened was they were actually noticed by the Dubai Tourism Board. I'm having goosies just talking about it. I don't know if you've heard of this story, Nazim, but because they did a lot of virtual streaming, they just put on their camera as they walk around town, you know, and then the Dubai Tourism said to them, hey, we want to do a task project with you guys where you guys, you know, have different people in different parts of Dubai do a live stream event and then just talk about tourism in Dubai. And at that time, we were like, oh, that was a great idea. Now, 10 years forward, we're like, where are all our bloggers who can do this? And I think about doing the virtual events is marrying all this technology, right, to create the awareness and get to the audience that want what we want. I love this. Whether it's cheftorial, whether it's virtual tours, or even, you know, retreats like Julie is doing, that's awesome, right? I do want to touch on one subject because this is, I think, what Melissa and I talked about before we started this show. Melissa and I were having this conversation because when we met, we said, like, I was asking her, you know, during the pandemic, you know, how do hotels sell their rooms, right? Whether it's the seminar room, conferences rooms, and halls, because I'm sure, I mean, it was a tough time, right, Melissa? Nobody was booking events. But I said I had read somewhere, you know, because coming from a streaming production background, there is a new wave of streamers or producers who are looking for locations to do the Zoomzilla, like if you all know Anthony Robbins, where they have like 3,000 screens, right? And Julie and I attended a training that kind of showed that concept and taught that concept. So Melissa, what was your thoughts when I shared the idea of, hey, maybe the hotels can sell the rooms to these producers?
Yeah, so that's a great point, Zeph. I was actually working with one of these startup companies when the pandemic first started as a means to keep the events industry going. We all know that events take quite some time for planning. So if you stop the sourcing process, that also puts the planning process on hold. So we knew that we weren't going to be able to host any in-person events in the immediate interim, but we wanted people to have that faith and keep that, you know, openness that live events will eventually come back. But that doesn't necessarily mean that virtual events are going away. So if you want to have an event that has, you know, 10,000 people, but you only have a venue that can accommodate 3,000 people, you can still reach that audience of 10,000 people. So what we kind of started doing was we started going around to each individual hotels and basically making a commercial for their hotel, videotaping it, talking about all of the amenities that the hotel had to offer, and putting it up on a website so people could find any destination, any day, anytime, anywhere, to be able to know, hey, I have an event that maybe it's not taking place in 2020, maybe not 2021, but I still need to look at 2022 because all of these things are going to start opening at the same time. And I want to be the first person to the punch to know that I have a contract, I have the space that I need, I have the hotel rooms that I need, and also to support the industry.
Yes. I love it. So thus, it goes back to Cheryl's, points. Basically, connection. Hello, virtual events will help you making connections. Number 2, exchange of ideas. And I want to read something that Liz, who is all the way from Malaysia, and she wrote this in our live stage. And she says, I think that tourism and hospitality can go on virtually. Example, doing virtual tourist package from a Moroccan travel company to experience Moroccan culture or beautiful scenery by having bungee jumping and all that kind of stuff. I thank you for sharing that because I feel that these are the creative ideas that we need to discuss, because it's just not about I have to smell it, I have to be there, but there are many creative ways of doing this. All right, let's go to our second question, and I'm just gonna go around the room because we know there are many challenges doing virtual events in tourism and hospitality, of course, hello. So here's question number 2, folks. Please share one challenge you had personally experienced in your industry, whether it's tourism or hospitality during the pandemic, and was there a virtual event solution for it? If yes, what was it? Ta-da! Who wants to get us started? Julie, would you like to start us off?
Sure, why not? Why not? My artist public, they did need connection very badly. They were actually very, very sad. I mean, artists anyway, we just live in caves, right? We live in caves all by ourselves, painting away. So to get us together was really important. But the other big thing that came up was they wanted motivation. So we had to figure out, how could we supply that basically virtually, and everybody was like sad because they couldn't travel. I mean, just bringing off the logistics of hiring a chateau in a foreign country and organizing catering and transport and all that from afar is a logistics kind of, problems or challenge, should we say. But then doing it virtually brought up all these new ideas like, oh my gosh, that was easy compared to virtual because I was inexperienced at it. But if I just kept looking at like, how can I bring these people interactive experience? Like, how do you do that? Well, they're artists, like you keep saying, Zeph, that it's about creating, and it's so true. And since I come from a world where that's what we do innately, we all create. It's like, what can you bring to the table that helps other people like contribute to that creation too, and just thinking outside the box, like really thinking outside the box and doing something. Nobody's done it before, so it's not even like trying to be original. It's just we're all original. This is a new world.
Yes. Absolutely. And we all are trying to figure out the new normal, whatever industry we're in, right? We're trying to figure out what works. And here's just the tip of the iceberg for everybody. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. I especially have met people who may potentially be clients or my friends and connections. I'm like, hey, why don't you do live streaming or get on video and camera and meet people and make a connection? And they look at me like, I will never be on camera. I'm like, okay, great. 10 years forward, right? The pandemic said hello to everybody. And they go like, oh my God, I have to be on a Zoom meeting back to back 12 hours a day. I'm like, how do you like that? So folks, we all are trying to figure out our new normal, whatever our process is. But, I think we cannot limit ourselves if we were to grow. And virtual event is just another way of helping you still continue to work your business, your work, and the thing that you do. We talk about making connections, exchanging ideas, and we can always use virtual events to co-promote each other, like, Cheryl contributed. Who wants to go next?
Maybe
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Yeah, maybe I can.
Yes. So you have to go next.
I think the basic, I think definitely everyone will agree with me. The basic issue of doing the virtual event is about learning and educating ourselves, because this is a new tool, as you correctly said.
Correct.
I mean, last 10 years, you said nobody knows about this. This is an alien for us. What the heck?
I know.
This kind of tool, and nobody knows how to utilize it. But now the pandemic, as I mentioned earlier in my first point, digitalization has pushed everybody on board. Everybody has to to buy the notebook, to buy things like a similar as simple as a headphone and with a microphone, and then you have to adapt and learn. So I think from our experience doing the exhibition, the virtual exhibition, definitely to get people on board to adopt to this new technology is really a challenge. And the solution is definitely we need to educate them. That's why I'm in the exporters development. We always organize events, seminars, workshop, even one-to-one clinics to educate them, to tell them, to the extent of, hey, how do you want to do this? You have to do step 1, step 2, step 3, to that extent, and similar like the classroom kind of teaching. But yeah, I mean, we need to educate everyone to leverage on this. Yeah.
I love that you mentioned education, right? So in anything that we do, whether it's business, life experiences, whether it's, you're working for somebody else, there's always going to be a curve where you guys like, I need to learn something new so that we can grow. So I think we all have arrived at this space where, I have to figure out if there's a new way for me to grow, and probably virtual events could be just that, even though I'm in the tourism and hospitality industries. And I kind of like mentioned behind the scenes before we started, I talked about how, this came up about how people talk about having travel expo, because this is the space I'm going into this year, virtual trade expos, conferences, summit, in a very, very kind of like expo kind of way, right? So we can think about, hey, travel agencies, y'all can, sell probably vouchers, when the travel, with the, hospitality and tourism travel industries are fully open. You can sell your vouchers. And you think people don't want to go after this? Of course they want to, but what we're doing right now is helping you keep your audiences engaged through virtual events, because all the different phases. Like somebody in here says, there is a phase of creating awareness. If people don't know who you are, use, leverage virtual events to connect. Let me go to a quick 30 seconds, intermission, and we'll come back and do a small game. Be right back.
Explore and discover with us why virtual events are becoming more essential to what you do and how you connect with the audience. How to choose the right type of virtual event for you. What kind of tools and resources are needed to produce your virtual event. How to pick the right virtual event service providers. How to monetize and profit from your virtual event. For more exclusive content, resources, and opportunities regarding virtual events, join our online community.
Hi, everybody. So in case you're just tuning in right now, you are watching We Do Virtual Events Live. The conversation on this tourism and hospitality panel is how virtual events help tourism and hospitality industries adapt to a pandemic economy. All right. So we answered a few questions. We had a lot of things going, but I also want to share this comment by Mutara. Let me put it up on screen real quickly. So Mutara here says she is in the live stage watching the show. So she says, I just want to share one virtual event that currently running in Malaysia. Malacca Zoo, which is one of the states in Malaysia, do virtual visit by selling virtual ticket to the online visitor by guiding the visit online. This is what I'm talking about, right? Virtual tours and all that awesome creativity that maybe we don't think about. And that's why I love what you said, Cheryl, is like, having virtual events like this, whether it's streaming or a full-blown expo, you can really exchange ideas. You can network with other folks in the tourism and hospitality spaces. All right, are we ready to actually play a game? So in case you don't know this, I'm going to play the spin the wheel game, and I get to be Vanna White for 2 minutes. Anyways, if you don't know who that is, I'm going to tell you in just a few seconds. All right, everybody, this is how the game is played. Okay, basically, I will have somebody from our guest panel here, spin the wheel, and then they get to ask the question to somebody that they want that person to answer. All right, because Cheryl Miza is all the way up top on my screen, let's spin this, and then when it stops, you're gonna read the question to the person. First, you choose the person, and then read the question to the person. Are you ready, Cheryl?
How to do this?
I'm just gonna spin the wheel, and when the question pops up, you pick the person you want to ask this question to. Okay, just read it and ready. Here we go. 1, 2, spin with all the audio effects. Okay, who do you want to ask, and read the question to that person?
Maybe I want to ask Nazim.
Okay.
Name one type of virtual event in the tourism or hospitality industries that became popular during the pandemic. What do you think?
That's a hard question. I'll take Alex. I'll take Alex. I'll take Chef for 500. No,
right.
I have to. Wait. I got an answer. I know that StreamYard was quite popular at the time. But I did not see anybody using it related to the tourism and hospitality industry prior to the pandemic. So
I love that you mentioned that, but I'm just going to also add on to a little bit of this. So one of the things that I think got really popular during the pandemic was something like what Rivers is doing right now, right? Rivers, people started cooking from home, they just powered up, and I think StreamYard's probably subscription just, exploded because everybody saw how easy it was to kind of do, a stream production. So, I keep saying this, but folks, if you want to do streaming with all the things, the bells and whistles that you're looking at, like what we're doing in this show, StreamYard would be a great option. I'm just not saying that I'm just 100% to it. This is like the easiest platform to do. But I know, like Rivers, you use Zoom, right, to stream your content out. Folks, you can definitely do that too. But here's my take on it, right? But it all depends what your content looks like. If you're just doing a cooking show, you don't really need participation, right? Maybe StreamYard, because basically you're just bringing in a few people on screen. The question is, do you need 50 people on screen? So, Rivers, do you want to also add to this conversation about how, because I think cooking shows like yours, whether it's not only show, it's actually more of an online class, right, have become more popular during the pandemic.
Yeah, the reason we took Zoom is because Zoom was the most popular for people to gravitate towards. And that's, we use every platform on the planet, but why we gravitated originally to Zoom is because it was the new Google, and everybody naturally gravitated. They were comfortable with it. So there was no teaching people about technology. When we started to do our chef tutorials, they already knew how to do it. So we could focus on what we're great at.
Awesome. All right. So you get to spin the wheel this time and then ask the question to somebody. Nazim, I'm going to spin it and you're going to pick the person and ask the question.
All right.
Ta-da!
I'm going to ask this to Rivers.
Yay!
Yeah. So go for the question, sir.
There we go. Name the number in the innovative virtual event that you have seen in tourism and hospitality spaces that blew your mind with its creativity, and what were the event goals?
So the event had to do with a tailgating experience through the new SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, which houses the Los Angeles Rams and the new Los Angeles Chargers NFL football team. The event we were associated with took the guests through the entire stadium. We were the first virtual public view of the stadium at that point in time, and we were able to see the inner workings of the technology. We actually had one of our chefs do a tailgating event during that time period. We were on the field. We were talking to some of the players, and so everybody was like, "Whoa, this is so cool!" So that in itself was cool, but the fact is they were the first ones to experience. So that type of element, whoa, I get to experience it first time versus anybody in the public, was really, really cool. And the objective was really about staff morale. So SoFi and the client that sponsored the event was, I got these staff all over the place. I want them to feel special. And so they created this special experience for them.
That's definitely great. Thinking outside of the box. Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
sure.
It's so creative. I love it. Love it. Julie, what about you? Have you seen anything like blew your mind in the artist space that you're in? Up mute.
Well, my mind is blown quite easily, actually. Everything seems to blow my mind. Well, we had to come up with a lot of new things. I must admit that we were trying to think things that hadn't been done. So the first thing I did notice that other people were doing is we were bringing on artists to watch demonstrations, other teachers demonstrating. And we thought, well, how's that going to work? Because when you're live, you have this, again, it's the connection, but actually virtual ended up looking really good because you get the best seat in the house, right over his shoulder, instead of having to fight for a space. So that was interesting. But we wanted to do something that was completely different. So it's like, well, how do you do that? So one of the ways we did that is we created kits that went with the virtual experience. So when people signed up, they got this kit, which included things like notebooks and sketch pads and markers and things, and then setting challenges throughout to get them interactive, and French berets, and lavender and aprons and things like that as well, to get the mood going. Because we wanted them to know as soon as they got that box open, this is not just another Zoom call. This is something completely different, Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that, and it's all about creativity and thinking outside the box. And let me see. Oh, Sharo Music just got accidentally kicked out. He kicked himself out. Anyways, it's all about creativity, and I think the willingness, right? We talked about education earlier. The willingness to learn something new. Melissa, what about you in your space? What have you seen? You go wow, that's kind of thinking outside the box and creative.
Yeah, so one of the things that I have seen has actually been virtual reality that has been used for virtual
We talked
events
about that. Yes.
to really give the attendees an immersive experience.
Yep.
Just kind of walk them through different museums, walk them through different boat tours, different train tours. The possibilities are endless because the content is your decision, whatever you want it to be. And I found that absolutely incredible. I mean, I got to see a live Barcelona soccer game right from the comfort of my living room. So I was like, if that doesn't make me want to go to Barcelona,
Barcelona
I
fans
don't know.
go like, yeah. Oh, I love that. So, one of the things we even talked about, like right before, was Nazim. We're talking about VR, right? So, folks, if you're watching this show right now, we are doing a 12-week episode on We Do Virtual Events Live, right? So I'm going to put that up. You can go and get all the information right here. But what I'm trying to say is this, right? So one of our August 25th panelists, she actually works for a company called Nextech AR. So I'm going to do a shout out to Janice Drew Bennett. So Janice actually works for Nextech AR, and Gary Vee just, was on one of their events, which they kind of like, launched their product called Live Now. One of their Ferrari end products is basically have AR and VR built into it. So here's in one of my demo sessions with Janice, she says, like, do you want to test a Tesla car? I'm like, sure. I'm like, she goes like, okay, scan this QR code. So folks, I'm going to tell you this. Ask yourself if you're doing just virtual events, but then you go like, oh, no, virtual events on Zoom, and then you go like, oh, it's getting boring. Think about virtual platforms that have VR and AR built into it. So here's the thought. If you're in the tourism or hospitality industry, what if you could scan a QR code of the gardens in France, right? And then you go like, let me try and see how I feel about going there. So you scan a QR code, put it into your living room, and you can see on your device that you're actually in the garden in France, walking through the gardens. Because when I did this demo, she goes like, yeah, put the Tesla and scan it down on your in your living room. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. When I did that, she goes like, okay, now open the door of the Tesla. I'm like, what? And she goes like, open it up. I'm like, open up this door, like you look at the screen and open up. She says, now do you see the dashboard of the Tesla? Can you see the inside? Oh my God, this is so cool. So my thoughts to all of you, if you're just using streaming or even just Zoom and you want to take it up a notch in connecting, exchanging ideas, and promoting your activities, think about the tools that you have right now. I'm just like having goosies when you talk about VR. Real life experiences, right? So this is really cool. Cheryl, what about you? Anything that you've seen out there in Malaysia that people are doing or need to be doing?
I didn't see a lot of it, but I think what I can share is I saw the Tourism Malaysia. They are now embarking on creating, they call it a virtual video on some of the major tourist spots in Malaysia, and then they would like to make it these videos live. And I think, as what you mentioned just now, some people to click into the video and feel immersed in the video, and try to explore. For example, if you are in the beach, that you can swerve around and see the beach in reality. And if you're in the forest, you can go look up at the trees and look down to see the animals and flora and fauna. So those kind of things that they are trying to do now, but I'm not sure whether they are online. But it has been one of the projects that they are doing to promote Malaysia. And as I mentioned earlier, I mean, they would like people still to remember Malaysia as a destination for tourism. Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that. And I'm also going to put up these two comments from Amy, who actually is tuning in our live stage. She says, hotels are doing a mixology class or featuring their chef making a signature item. They send attendees ingredients. I'm having goosies just because I'm like, yeah, you got it. They send attendees ingredients prior so they can make the food beverage item at home. Awesome. And then Amy also says games that are thematic to the company sponsoring, for example, like a funeral home company does a virtual bingo the last Tuesday each month. Sponsors have prizes for the winners. Boom. all in all, I think the bottom line is making those connections, right? And then exchanging the ideas, which you mentioned, Cheryl, which are very important key points. And then we all can help promote one another. So Amy, you talk about mixology. That means you'll have to watch our August 25th show, because we will have a mixologist in the house. And Rivers, you know her. Rivers actually is a friend of Rachel Green, who's actually going to be on the show on August 25th, and she was the one who said you need to talk to Rivers. So first, Rivers here. So so Rachel, if you're watching, we are pitching you in a little bit for the August 25th show. So what happened with her? She couldn't be on this panel. So her story was she basically started an online class, and then she sold her mixology kit, and during the classes, and it was awesome idea. And these are the things we want you folks in the hospitality and tourism industries to kind of think about, be creative, think outside the box. Now we have 5 minutes before we close out the show, but I just want to go quick, probably a minute around the room to kind of get your take on where the future of virtual events or hybrid events, especially in the tourism and hospitality spaces, because this is going to be a very kind of interesting conversation, because I still think tourism and hospitality has a little bit of mindset limitations to what they can do. I would love for us to kind of inspire some great ideas. Nazim, would you get us, started in this?
Yeah, sure. I think seriously what they need to start looking at is in the context, as I mentioned at the beginning, TBEX. I'm really surprised that one of the biggest travel bloggers organization worldwide is not even thinking about, let's do a combination of a hybrid on the location, mixing it with the virtual possibilities that right now the platforms are available and they're working quite well. And it has to happen, and it has to happen even incorporating social media inside the whole realm. That's another thing that I noticed. For example, we jumped on HAPS. HAPS is great. We're getting a lot of ROI on HAPS to our blog because of the fact that we're just going around Italy and showing, to a lot of people around the world. I think combining all these things together, all these instruments together, is a key factor for the future.
I love that you mentioned that. Thank you for sharing that with us, Nazim. Julie? You're muted. Yep.
Oh, this is super exciting. I think what's going to happen is because, so we had in person, then we went to virtual. Now we're sort of drifting back into in person, which I'm very comfortable with. I love doing the virtual. I love presenting. I love creating content. But, there's just so many factors. And there's the whole marketing. And then, I just do basically everything. And then I do have technical help as well. So it's how do we take that and actually kind of create a little bit more hybrid experience in the future? So why not stream from an in-person event? Why not? Why not collaborate? I think that is exciting while we make connections. You know why? Because technology is awesome, right? It's just awesome. And why don't we just use it, People are like, it's a little bit sort of, out of my comfort zone.
But they have had to learn Zoom in the past year.
Exactly. If Da Vinci was here right now, he'd be using the technology. He'd be making the apps. We'd all be like, okay, art is really about technology. And it is, like I say, artists, we're entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, you're artists, because we're all creating as we go. So, that's what I think would be super exciting. Definitely.
I love it. Love it. Cheryl.
Yeah, I think this is current the new normal, and it's gonna be a normal in the future. And but thinking aloud. When assuming everything is the pandemic is over, we are all of us back to normal. Everyone goes to traveling, but I think still this virtual events is gonna be part and parcel of the way we are promoting it, because it's going to be a hybrid, like Julie correctly said. It's a blend of reality as well as the virtual, so it's going to be interesting. And with the new technology, creative ideas that you guys are talking about, it's going to be wonderful.
Love it. Thank you so much. Melissa.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with everybody here on the panel. This is something that is here to stay, and it's just going to get better and better over time. I mean, I remember the first live event that I went to, and it kind of missed the bar on what the goal was for the attendees. But, you know, over time, we find ways to improve. We find ways to bounce back. We look at, you know, what we missed the bar on, what we really nailed home. And you kind of focus on that, and you just take advantage of the opportunities to constantly improve and just make the experience better.
Boom! Experience better, people. Rivers.
Yeah, I've been agreeing with your guests 100% up until now. Sharul, I think I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think we're going back to normal. I think we are going forward into a new world that is going to be the new normal. And for those people that traverse, Nazim was talking about traverse. You know, I remember the days when people would fight putting websites into their business, going on Facebook, and organizations that have got their head in the sand and are ignoring virtual are going to be left behind. It needs to be part of your business, not necessarily your business, but part of your business offering. That's where I think it's going.
I love that you say that. And, you know, I just want to put this up. Nazim says, I can build a virtual VR Olive Garden and have all the visitors end up in my wife's kitchen here. Way better cooking and food. I love it. Anyways, here's my take on this, right, guys? So, again, it goes back to everything, trying to figure out the new normal. There's a learning curve to this. We all admit to this, right? So there's going to be education involved. The question is, are you folks out there, right? Are you willing to kind of take a little bit of risk, kind of experience a little bit more, take a little bit of a learning challenge, right? Because 10 years ago, the technology wasn't here, but now the technology is here, right? Figure it out. Because if you want it that bad, right, you will figure it out. Like, you know, the pandemic's here. I don't know how to be on camera. I figured it out. That's what we all have to do. And folks, I'm going to tell you one thing. If I did not get involved in this space of streaming and production, and now, you know, virtual events, do you think I get to meet all these beautiful 5 people right here? Duh. You know, Italy, we have California, New Jersey, Malaysia, Canada, like, hello, think about it. So especially if you're in tourism and hospitality, think about it. You're talking to the global world. I'm having goosies just talking to the global world. What can help you? Technology, right? Takes you to be consistent. All you need to do is what? Show up and have a conversation, right? Exchange ideas, create that awareness. Boom. If y'all are just new to me, you now know I move at 200 miles per hour. Hello. Anyways, I just want to say thank you to all our panel speakers right here, because I think there were great nuggets dropped today. And for all of you watching and the live stage, you know, Liz, John Chen, Pam, Charlie, Brigetti, Mike, Julie, you know, I know you're all from all over the world. Be sure to not only engage during the live show, connect with our speakers. That's why we do these shows, right, folks? Because we want to make sure we network. If you're in tourism and hospitality, you want folks from all over the world to know what you're doing creatively, then this is the place to be. All right, everybody, I just want to say thank you all for tuning in here. And until next time, we will see you on the We Do Virtual Events stage. We'll see you all next time. Bye. Thank you all.
Ciao.
Ciao. Au revoir.